Hello, friends. Today we are going on an exciting journey to the ancient world. Our topic is piracy activities in the Roman Republic until the imperial period. Yes, you heard it right. The ancestors of the pirates we see in Hollywood movies were sea bandits who threatened the power of Rome. In other words, Rome did not only fight with legions and gladiators, epics were also written at sea. But who were these pirates? How did they threaten Rome's trade routes? Why did Pompeius Magnus turn into a pirate hunter? We will discover the answers to these questions together. Let's dive in. Synopsis. Rome, as a Mediterranean state, was part of the great civilizations that emerged from the Central Sea. Throughout history, seafaring peoples such as the Egyptians, Phoenicians, Greeks, and Carthaginians became key representatives of the Mediterranean world. The culture that developed around this sea was unique, for the Mediterranean itself is more than just a body of water. It's a vast, interconnected network of seas, a cradle for numerous civilizations stacked one upon another. Like other Mediterranean powers, the Roman Empire extended its rule over vast geographies. And like every other Mediterranean kingdom, Rome faced political challenges, one of which was the persistent issue of piracy. Historically, piracy plagued the Mediterranean kingdoms, and Rome was no exception. Despite its dominance over the Mediterranean, which the Romans proudly referred to as Mare Nostrum, our sea, piracy remained a threat that needed to be eradicated. The Roman Republic took decisive action to rid the Mediterranean of pirates. Roman generals, or legati, were granted wide-ranging imperium powers, which allowed them to launch extensive campaigns against pirate strongholds. These operations targeted pirate bases, stretching from the coasts of Sicily in the west to the shores of the eastern Mediterranean. Several notable Roman commanders played key roles in this massive cleanup effort, including Publius Servilius, Marcus Antonius, Quintus Metellus, and Pompey the Great. Thanks to the efforts of these generals, Rome not only ruled the land, but also exerted its control over the seas, ensuring the safety and security of the entire Mediterranean world. Introduction. The center of the Roman Empire has always been located in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. It has lived intertwined with seafaring and has come to have a high maritime culture. This situation has made the region eggs. They lived before Rome. Ancient Greek city-states, such as Athens and Sicily, suffered the same fate. Also in the east, the Phoenician kingdom, which was founded in the Mediterranean but later expanded throughout the Mediterranean and established colonies. And the Phoenicians suffered from the same problem from time to time. Because the Phoenicians were the sea, always held political supremacy in the region due to its trade antecedents required. The Roman Empire also made strides towards the same strategic goal. Especially in the eastern Mediterranean, Levant region, the great pirate there nests posed a major problem for the Republic's eastern policy. Pirates. The sea transportation, which was very important for Rome, was constantly plundered and raided. These raids put the Roman Republic in a very difficult situation because the Republic relied heavily on grain from the Nile Delta, and the pirates' plundering was a major source of income in Roman Europe. Scenarios of great famine. In short, Egyptian grain was the empire's to feed the capital city. The pirates came from the Pontic Sea, Black Sea, to Jabali Tariq, was visible all over the field up to his throat, albeit at intermittent intervals. But the busiest pirate hotspots were between Cilicia and the Cyprus line. This piracy in the Roman Republic. Before looking at the history of their activities, it is useful to look at the basis of piracy in the Mediterranean there are. Piracy. The root of the word comes from Latin and has passed into all European languages. In Arabic, it also means one who dominates. The history of piracy in the Mediterranean goes back to ancient times. From a broad perspective, piracy in antiquity was a profession, perceived, because the basic needs of human beings, such as eating and drinking, if it cannot be met, sailing the seas and plundering is the most natural right. Perceived. For seafaring ancient peoples, piracy was a means of survival. This one piracy was an accepted profession for all prehistoric nations in this period. This profession provided a mobility in the Mediterranean and helped the transportation of many goods, from commercial goods to people, has made it possible for things to shift, and, as Fernand Braudel said, into a collection of uniquenesses. In the following years, piracy became not only a way to eat and drink, not only to fulfill the requirements, but also lays the foundation for a great war has become. According to legend, the Phoenicians, a great seafaring community coast, and kidnapped Io, the daughter of Inachus. And after this incident, the Greeks came to Phoenicia, capital of Tyre, and kidnaps the king's daughter Europa. Later, the Greeks, again, they kidnap Medea. And 2 generations later, the Trojan prince Paris kidnaps a Greek queen. He kidnaps Helen. In short, piracy is as old as history, and there are many new and paved the way for the opening of windows. The first major action against piracy Cretans, Minoan and his kingdom, one of the first representatives of maritime culture in the world, undertook. King Minoan created a great civilization in Crete, and this a mass pirate hunt in the Aegean Islands, with all naval power to prevent the disruption of civilization, to prevent piracy from taking hold on the seas. At the end of this, the maritime law was reintroduced to prevent piracy from taking hold on the seas. He even suggested Thucydides also wrote that the Cretans and their legendary king, the Thalassocratic order, established by Minos in the Mediterranean world, that is, the Thalassocratic order established in the Mediterranean, the importance of its sovereignty has been seriously emphasized. After Crete, in and around the Aegean, the Achaeans spread and dominated the seas. Piracy is a profession. Now that we have said that pirates were pirates, it would be useful to talk about the intricacies of this profession. Pirates used to go on voyages in certain months of every year. These months, called the sea season, starts in April of the year and continues all spring and summer, hardening in October, with the onset of the winds. From precious metals to spices, products looted all goods, from trade to slave trade, and at the same time, the purchase and sale of these goods. They were also engaged in the sale of goods. To summarize, piracy and its history in the Mediterranean as old as humanity's presence in that region. Mediterranean and maritime. Mediterranean and maritime. Before we come to the problem of piracy in the Roman Empire, we must first analyze the Mediterranean world. And then it is necessary to know the Mediterranean itself, from Gibraltar to Suez Channel and the Red Sea, narrow at both ends and wide in the middle. Geological ages, along with fractures, collapses, bends, and deep pits. Mediterranean societies, including the Romans, were seafaring. Although most of these societies lived from fishing, the Mediterranean has a low fish population. At the same time, due to the mild climate, the Mediterranean, and there are also no large agricultural areas around it. Egypt is an exception to this, but it has a special feeder like the Nile River. Mediterranean societies are also characterized by sailed the seas with ships and undertook exploration operations. The 2 most important of these are Phoenicians and Greeks. Phoenicians founded many colonies, especially Carthage, has. The Phoenicians even traded across the Strait of Gibraltar to the British coast. Fleets. The Greeks sent fleets to Libya, Sicily, Naples, Marseille. It had many colonies in the Black Sea, and this period is called the Age of Greek Colonization. During this period, all commercial goods coming from the east were transported to the interior of Europe by sea. Pirates took their share from this transportation. As a result, Mediterranean societies have been intertwined with the sea throughout history has worked. Rome and maritime. The Roman Empire was a typical Mediterranean empire because of its Mediterranean inhabitants, as a navy. But in fact, the empire had a weak naval tradition in military terms. The coasts of modern Italy, geographically frequented by pirates, were the most popular to seafaring. But the Romans lagged behind in seafaring, at least not to their rivals. It would not be wrong to say that they were backward compared to the Carthaginians. So much so that there are no maritime terms in Latin, are almost negligible. These terms are taken from Greek. He was one of the first, unlike the Greek city-states. The Roman Empire did not attach much importance to seafaring. In 312 BC, Rome had to build the Pontine Empire to protect itself from Greek sea pirates and captured the islands. In 311 BC, the Duumviri had officers they called navales. Fleet maintenance tasks were assigned. If we look at it from the point of view of the maritime school, Rome, on the eve of the Carthaginian Wars, he launched 100 5-deckers and 33 deckers in as little as 60 days. This breakneck speed suggests that the ships were built in a sloppy manner. Makes you think. It is likely that the 5-fold oared ships were inspired by the Carthaginians. If we look at Rome's maritime struggles, the Republic found itself against Antium, who were harming them with their ships, and prevailed, seizing their ships in their harbor. Puts it in place. Again in the following years, after the Battle of Tarentum, the Republic in the field of merchant ships. During this period, the Romans mostly used merchant ships were available, because the designs of the first warships were taken from a sunken Carthaginian ship, inspired by the Carthaginian navy, Carthage, which terrorized the Mediterranean with its naval power, to establish a monopoly at sea. In 256 BC, the Romans defeated the Carthaginians. The defeat of the Carthaginians brings an era to a close. The Carthaginians lose more than 40 ships. More than Rome required the Carthaginians to burn their navy after every Carthaginian battle. Runs. But in the following years, after the Carthaginians ceased to be a threat, Rome. The Republic has also left its own navy to rot, an overhaul of the naval forces. The state did not feel the need to do so and suffered for it in the years to come. But in any case, be that as it may, the battles of Carthage were the beginning of a maritime tradition for the Roman Republic. The wars were a great experience for the state. Rome's struggle with pirates. Before going into the Roman state's struggle with pirates, it is important to understand how the coastal cities of Italy, when pirates have occupied the world. Because throughout history, pirates have been cities such as Messina, Corsica, Sicily, where Rome appeared even in the Republican period, conquered the city. In 264 BC, Rome conquered Messina from its inhabitants, the Mamertini, to the city of Agrigento. Then, in 262 to 261, the city of Agrigento was taken from the Greeks. BCI in 254, the city of Panormos was taken from the Carthaginians. During this period, the Punic Wars accelerated, while the only goal was to establish dominance in the Mediterranean. 19 Carthaginian pirates. It wreaks havoc on the Roman navy and is a major threat to Rome's to disrupt their operations. From this devastation, the Roman fleet was reduced to 700 pieces by losing ships. But Rome was able to turn the tide of fortune in its favor, and in 241 BC, in the same year, he destroyed the Carthaginian fleet off the Aegean Islands. In the same year, Sicily, one of the most important Mediterranean and piracy hotspots, was surrendered to Rome. The same year. At the same time, the cities of Sardinia and Corsica also came under Roman rule. Carthage II War. The Carthaginians were expelled from Spain, and Rome became the most important territories. The northeastern coastal region, Catalonia, famous for its silver mines. The whole area stretching from the south of Spain to Carthago Nova came under its sovereignty. Although Rome was later shaken by the great successes of Hannibal Scipio Africanus's landing in Africa, and finally the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. There was no rival threat as a political state. It was after these events that Rome began to a minimum. During this period, Rome was able to protect large merchant fleets from pirates, or fighting the powerful Pontic kingdom of Mithridates. In such situations, they saw the need to build large ships. As for our topic, Rome's first campaign against pirates was the Illyrian War, is known as. Due to its geographical location, it is a place with strong winds and deep gulfs. Societies living in regions such as Istria, Illyria, Dalmatia, and Albania piracy is one of the most famous. The people who lived in this region had access to very large pirate fleets and plundered many areas in the Mediterranean. The main source of livelihood for these societies, piracy had become a legitimate profession for the Illyrians. For this reason, the seafaring level of this society was advanced. They had two ships called Liburnia. They had galleys that were decked and armed with 2 rows of oars. Rome and Carthage had to fight for Sicily, while Illyrian pirates roam all over the Adriatic and plunder the coasts. These raids were also carried out on Greek cities such as Corcyra, Lefkadeo, Kephallonia. At the same time, Roman merchants were also affected by these plunders and constantly complained to the Senate. They transmitted it. Illyrians started their piracy activities in the Adriatic in the middle of the 3rd century BCC. King Agron, who wanted to establish a single Illyrian kingdom centered in Iskoder, built a strong navy and organized piracy by the state. Agron's pirates then started to plunder the entire Adriatic Sea. Agron's tutor, Agron's wife, took over the kingdom after his death, 231 BC, and piracy activities continued unabated. So much so that during this period, Illyrian pirates were raided and plundered as far as the field. Again in this period, Phoenicae in Epeiros sacked the city. The pirates then plundered the city of Corcyra, and sacked it, defeated the fleet of the Achaean fleet that had come to rescue them from this invasion. Illyrians. After they occupied Corcyra, they sent a letter to their friend Demetrios of Pharos, for the sake of security. They also provided a garrison under Demetrios for security. Later, Illyrian pirates also plundered and captured the island of Issa. While these events were taking place, the Hellenic states appealed to the Roman Senate and asked the Republic and asked for help. Rome seriously debated this offer of help in the Senate, he thought, because the Illyrian pirates were not only able to control the Hellenic city-states in the Adriatic Sea. Looting. They were also looting Rome's overseas merchant ships, were seen. As an example, these pirates were able to destroy Roman fleets off the coast of Phoenic and killed many Romans, but nonetheless, the Senate immediately declared war and preferred to keep diplomatic channels open. The Senate has decided that piracy sent an embassy to Queen Teuta to stop their activities. Queen Rome that no specific acts of piracy would be carried out on its ships or territory. But if the Illyrian corsairs had their way, they could have captured Roman ships that he would not interfere if they plundered his coasts. At the same time, the ambassadors with one of them, Queen Teuta, killed the envoy and severed ties with Rome for good, to break away. After these events, Rome started preparations for war. Cnaeus Fulvius, elected consul in 229 BC, quickly decided that the Roman naval forces and put his colleague Aulus Postumius in charge of the land forces. Fulvius immediately landed in Corcyra and made an agreement with Queen Demetrios. Rome. When his armies learned that Epidemos was besieged, they immediately went to help. Siege failed, the Illyrians retreated. Rome, on the other hand, was able to push into Illyrian territory advanced. After Rome brought the Ardeans to their knees, other Illyrian tribes joined Rome. To the Illyrians. The Roman army had to fight the Illyrians, who practiced piracy both on land and at sea. When he saw that he could not resist much, he returned to Epidemos. Afterwards, the main armies retreated entirely back to Rome. Only 40 light ships were used to secure the Adriatic for a few days. In the spring, Teuta, king of Illyria, negotiated a treaty with Rome to the Mediterranean. The deal was too harsh for Teuta, as he had to agree to pay tribute to Rome to land only 2 unarmed ships. The deal is accepted, and both the the Illyrian piracy era, which was the great scourge of Greek cities, ended for a short time, was found. After these events, the Greco-Roman Friendship Treaty was signed. Greek cities and Rome got along well with the Romans. The Romans started a new piracy activity in the region. To Queen Demetrios, in order to prevent the formation of a Roman Empire. But the queen was not satisfied, took advantage of the political vacuum, and cooperated with the Istrian pirates and collaborated with Rome, and renounced the alliance. Not only that, he plundered many islands and cities with the pirates. The Senate did not remain silent and sent a large military force to Emilius, and sent him against Demetrios. Demetrios sent a large army prepared. Emilius, with his army and force, defeated the city of Demolos and the Roman and accepted his subordination. Emilius then went against Demetrius and fought a great battle, and the battle was fought. As a result of the tactics used before the battle, troops were sent to the rear of Demetrios' army. By using this tactic, Emilius trapped Demetrios and inflicted a major defeat on him. Several Illyrian generals, Demetrios and pirates, managed to escape in a ship, Emilius. He entered the city of Pharos and took it from the Illyrians, and the region fell under Roman rule, and had to accept it. The Roman Republic had to deal with the Illyrian Wars, and a major pirate cleaned the Adriatic sea trade. He secured the Adriatic maritime trade, and with these wars, together with the Illyrian pirates' fleets. After Rome wiped out the Illyrian pirates, then put an end to piracy in the Adriatic Sea. But in many parts of the Mediterranean, pirates still remained an active force and continued to plunder towns and cities. Continued. Another one of these pirate peoples is the Aetholians. The Aetholians, one of the Greek peoples, they committed acts of banditry and piracy. The historian Polybios described this tribe as hostile, marauding, more like animals than human beings. The Aetholians attacked the Peloponnesus plundered. The Aetholians reached the border of Messenia and sacked that city as well, and looted in collusion with communities. Because of these massive massacres, those responsible for the massacres, Commander Dorimac, is asked to stand trial by his own country. But upon this news enraged, Dorimac sailed the seas and did not plunder the Messenians again. And with this, and harassed Macedonian ships. He landed on the coast of Epirus looted. He then tried to occupy the cities of Acarnania and Tyre. Greeks and the Macedonian king Philip united to stop these raiders. Rome and Aetholia and signed a treaty with the Greeks. Thus, Rome became involved in the internal affairs of the Greeks, and this paved the way for Rome's future Macedonian wars. The future of the Aetholians, but they were destroyed by the Roman Empire in 198 BC, the Roman Republic. Another battle with pirates was in the Balearic Islands region. Although the island was free of pirates, pirates were active in a very large area on the west coast. Island, due to its productivity, it has become a favorite destination for pirates. Pirates used the region. At first they looted. Later, the people of the region made agreements with the pirates looted and persecuted. Due to the severe torture and persecution, the Roman Senate sent Metellus to the region in 123 BC to put an end to these banditry. West. They even confronted the Roman navy in the Mediterranean area. Roman ships defeated by his great spurs. The Balearic fled to the coast. Metellus' piracy pursued these natives into the mountains and eventually exterminated them. This region. With the conquest, Rome's trade route to Spain became more secure. At the same time, a great gain in every sense, as it is a region with a high degree of productivity provided. The Roman Republic's struggle against pirates in Cilicia and Pamphylia. A look at the Roman Republic's struggle against pirates in Cilicia first. It is necessary to know the region of Cilicia, one of the greatest geographers of antiquity. According to Strabo, Cilicia was the region from Alanya to the Gulf of Iskenderun. The region is very rugged and mountainous due to the Taurus Mountains. This is very mountainous and rugged. The formation of Cilicia turned Cilicia into a place where pirates were constantly fleeing. At the same time, the region is very varied due to its plains, valleys, and rivers. The region of Cilicia. If we look at the start of piracy activities in the region with Rome after Alexander Seleucids, who maintained their existence. The Roman armies were the most important of the Hellenistic kingdoms. He defeated Antiochus III, Seleucus, in the Battle of Magnesia, with the Seleucids in Anatolia, and ended Seleucid rule in Anatolia with the Treaty of Apamea in 188 BC to the Roman Empire. However, Rome also gave all the territory from the north of the Taurus Mountains to the Kızılırmak River, made its presence felt in geography. By 133 BC, Rome had conquered the last Pergamum entered western Anatolia. Based on the will of Attalus III, the king of Asia province was established. After this removal of the Seleucids from western Anatolia, many pirates gained power in the eastern Mediterranean, especially in Cilicia and Pamphylia, and embargoed all maritime trade in the region. In fact, even before 133 BC, when Rome Asia province and fully settled in Anatolia. Seleucids in the Mediterranean. They could not cope with the pirates. In 167 BC, Caria and Lycia were declared free, and the island of Delos after Rhodes was turned into an open port. A major commercial embargo was imposed on Rhodes, which provided the maritime security of the region, and this situation caused great economic difficulties for Rhodes, which meant that pirates were also increasing in the region. In the meantime, the increase in piracy and looting in the region, proliferation was inevitable. Diodotus Tryphon in 140 BC and Diodotus Tryphon in 138 BC. The activities of the pirate chieftains named Xenakeitos are very striking. Diodotus's navy was a medium rivaling that of a ranked kingdom. Xenakeitos, on the other hand, in an effort to establish a new society. The Seleucid kingdom could not respond adequately to pirates. But the other Hellenic kingdoms were not taking action against this situation. Because in Egypt, the Ptolemies turned a blind eye to these pirate raids just so the Seleucids would have a hard time, was tolerated. Rome's establishment of the province of Asia in 133 BC, in 129 BC, a 10-man was established by the Senate delegation. The province consisted of Pergamum, Mysia, Lydia, Caria, and Phrygia. The maritime industry in western Anatolia declined significantly. One of the reasons for this, as a result, piracy spread rapidly throughout southwestern Anatolia and expanded its borders. Expanded. During this period, the name Cilicia was almost synonymous with piracy. Rome initially, these small-scale piracy activities were kept quiet. Even Italy. He even traded slaves with the pirates for labor on their lands. Later on, he would use the pirates the Republic wanted to put an end to this situation due to its proliferation in the eastern Mediterranean. The main reason for these acts of piracy was the slave trade. Because Corinthos and after the defeat of Carthage, there was a huge supply of slaves in the Mediterranean, and pirates, they met this supply. In short, with the Treaty of Apamea, Rome changed all the balances in the region and sowed the seeds of piracy with his own hand. This emerging authority in the region, the gap was exploited by pirates. Piracy during the Roman Pontian struggle, when the Roman Republic defeated the Carthaginians and emerged victorious from the Macedonian Wars, it came to control many ports in the Mediterranean. But there were still some. The Hellenistic kings posed a serious problem for Rome's eastern policy. The Ptolemies in Egypt, the Seleucids in the Middle East, and finally the Pontic kingdom established on the coast. The Pontic kingdom was destroyed by Rome in 133 BC, when the last Pergamum king Attalus III's entry into western Anatolia following his will, and he started various revolts in Anatolia. By 111 BC, the Pontic king Mithridates VI. Mithridates tasked himself with gathering all of Anatolia under his rule, for he was the successor of the Greek, Hellenic, i.e. Alexander, legacy. Setting out with these ideals, Pontus King Mithridates supported all kingdoms, individuals, and pirates against Rome. Also, provided material aid. In this respect, Mithridates, he allied himself with the Armenian king Tigranes. Again, as mentioned above, Cilicia and Mithridates provided serious assistance against the pirates who became very powerful in the surrounding region. During this period, the Cilicia region became a living space for many people fleeing from the dictator Sulla of the pirates. During this period, pirates became very powerful and even small pirate kingdoms. They even established kingdoms. These kingdoms were even recognized by the Pontic and Armenian kingdoms. The Roman Senate passed a decree in 102 BC for the destruction and cleansing of these pirate settlements in Cilicia. Marcus Antony, grandfather of Marcus Antony, an important figure of the Second Triumvirate, Antony was put in charge. The first thing Antony did was to observe the pirate sites year 102 BC. He entered Cilicia with his legions and organized pirates both on land and defeated them both in sea battles. But even this victory does not solve the piracy problem. Not enough. Under Antony, Cilicia was a provincia under Antony in his position. After Antony's wars, the Senate elected a dictator in 92 BC, who later became dictator Sulla, who would become famous as Sulla, as governor of Cilicia. During this time, the pirates, they sacked the Roman-owned islands of Samos and Samothrace. During this period, Mithridates and Tigranes, who constantly aided the pirates, it was almost a blow to their political ambitions. Cicero visited the region in 80 to 79 BC by Cornelius Dolabella. Dolabella's campaign in Pamphylia and Cilicia operations are mentioned, but Dolabella had no clear success. This was, therefore, pirates proliferated in Cilicia. Dolabella was very inefficient against pirates, remained the Senate-appointed P. Servilius in 78 BC. Servilius was appointed in Lycia, captured the city, and crossed the Taurus Mountains to conquer the fortress of Isora. Roman province of Cilicia expanded its borders, but it did not provide a complete solution to the pirates' activities. Could not bring them back. Pirates not only plundered eastern Mediterranean cities during this period, but also plundered the coasts of Spain and Lower Italy. In the aftermath, the Senate authorized Monsieur Antony to grant Monsieur Antony the authority of an imperium covering the entire Mediterranean, was sent against the pirates. Antony had to fight the Cretan pirates. In 74 BC, he was defeated by two Cretan admirals, Lasthenes and Paneras. Roman Senate. He demanded that the Cretan pirates pay for the expenses and that he never sail the seas with Rome again, to stop fighting. But the Cretan admirals refused and the war continued at full speed. Deus. Meanwhile, in 71 BC, Antony died in Crete. Between 69 to 67 BC, the Senate appointed Metellus to deal with the Cretan issue. Quintus Metellus conducted a successful operation against the pirates, and he defended Crete from the pirates and their allies. From the Pontic sailors, Metellus killed many pirates, dismantled their center. In response, pirates raided the Roman port of Ostia and burned the entire Roman fleet. With this event, Italy's entire maritime trade collapsed, and the grain shipments flowing from North Africa to Rome stopped. This situation for Rome so critical that the Senate was once again in a position to take a decision. In 67 BC, Gabinius, the tribune of the people, presented the assembly with a proposal to fight pirates. Has arrived. Gabinius authorizes Pompeius to solve this pirate problem in the Mediterranean. He had found. As a result of this proposal, Pompeius took the post with a strong mandate. Pompey's Pontus problem emerged around the time he took power, and the province of Asia became a serious problem for Rome, became a problematic region. Soon after this period, Pompeius was attacked by Mithridates, and he will take up the fight against Tigranes. Pompeius will sail from the Strait of Gibraltar to the Dardanelles. He fought piracy in a wide area up to the Bosphorus. Pompey's first order of business. He divided the Mediterranean into 13 regions and assigned a legate to each region. He then assigned a legate to each with a large fleet under his command, and he had a great influence on the western Mediterranean. Cleared the eastern regions of pirates. Then, within 40 days, the pirates in the eastern regions, and put an end to their activities. Lastly, Pompeius sent a fleet. He marched on Cilicia with the fleet. Pompeius, who was victorious against the pirates, and waited for the pirates to surrender. A group of pirate fleet that did not surrender in Alanya Pompey's army off the coast. Pompey emerged victorious from this battle. Advancing within months, these pirates surrendered, and within 3 months, Pompey ended pirate activity. Pompeius had to deal with the destruction of the pirates. He restored Cilicia and reopened the cities to settlement. The surviving pirates, Malos, Adana, Epiphania, Soli, and other less populated cities. At the same time, Pompey wanted to avoid a situation of instability and to prevent piracy in the region again. A local organization called Tarkondamotos, centered on Hierapolis, Bodrumcale, to a leader loyal to Rome, Pompeius, who won these battles and gained great fame all over Rome. And then he was tasked with the Pontic issue, because since the hundreds BC, the Mediterranean, the kingdom of Pontus, was a constant supporter of piracy against all of Rome, and Mithridates, the king of Pontus, saw himself as the successor of Alexander, and therefore he had the power to control all of Anatolia, and he stood against Rome with the title of Savior of the Mediterranean. But despite all his efforts, nevertheless, Pompey largely cleared the Mediterranean of pirates. Imperial Rome, pirate struggles. In the middle of the 1st century BC, the Roman Republic was established by the military fame of Pompeius. Caesar's popularity and Crassus's wealth were threatened by the triangle. These 3 individuals. In the following years, he established the triumvirate lying to govern the Roman Republic, and established a common also met at the share. Later, disagreements arose between this alliance and Rome, a civil war that occupies a major place in history. The winner of this civil war was Caesar, and ruled Rome as a dictator until his death. Pompeius in Egypt, but his child lived on. After the death of his father, he fled and became a pirate, and that's how he survived. In Spain and neighboring regions, lives the life of an active pirate. In order to get other pirate chieftains to join him, he has to make a big. He said he was the son of Pompeius. Arabion, son of Massinissa, led a fleet and a military. Soon after this period, Pompeius was attacked by Mithridates, and he will take up the fight against Tigranes. Pompeius will sail from the Strait of Gibraltar to the Dardanelles. He fought piracy in a wide area up to the Bosphorus. Pompey's first order of business. He divided the Mediterranean into 13 regions and assigned a legate to each region. He then assigned a legate to each with a large fleet under his command. And he had a great influence on the western Mediterranean, cleared the eastern regions of pirates. Then, within 40 days, the pirates in the eastern regions, and put an end to their activities. Lastly, Pompeius sent a fleet. He marched on Cilicia with the fleet. Pompeius, who was victorious against the pirates, and waited for the pirates to surrender. A group of pirate fleet that did not surrender in Alanya Pompey's army off the coast. Pompey emerged victorious from this battle. Caesar, who was killed, was succeeded by his nephew Octavianus, the winner of a second civil war. This is the beginning of Rome's gradual slide into empire. This period is especially marked by the Second Triumvirate. Octavianus later took the title of Augustus. Pompeius II forms an alliance with Cassius and Brutus against the Triumvirate. Sextus becomes even more powerful. and he gains absolute power in the Mediterranean. Sextus and his pirates become so powerful on the seas, Italy has the discretion to close maritime trade at will and open it at will. They have. In 39 BC, Octavianus Augustus made a deal with Sextus. Rome recognizes all pirates and their actions, pirates in exile or imprisonment, and finally, Sicily, Sardinia, Corsica are released to Sextus, Peace of Misenum. But this peace was short-lived, and Sextus cut off Rome's grain routes and caused a major starvation occurs. Octavianus immediately assembles a fleet against this situation, and Scylla, the two navies come face to face. Sextus and his pirates defeat Octavian. Octavianus loses almost all his ships. Octavianus starts building new ships in time to secure 120 galleys from Antony. But this time, Octavian's ships devastated by a storm. By 36 BC, each of the ships consisted of 300 pieces. Two incoming enemy fleets face each other. The battle lasts for hours. At first, there is no clear winner, but through the great efforts of Agrippa, Octavian's commander, Sextus, and completely destroying the pirate fleet. After this defeat, Sextus retreated to the east. In the east, he came into contact with the Parthians. Sextus wants to be master of the east. But both Antony and Titus, unable to withstand the pressure, Sextus burns his fleet and flees with his army into Asia. However, he was later captured, taken to Miletus, and killed there. After the death of Sextus Pompeius. After his reign, there will never be such a great piracy activity in the Roman Empire again. Piracy in his time was the only piracy in Roman history to have such a large organization. It didn't happen. Conclusion. From antiquity to the present day, the Mediterranean has been an area where pirates have existed throughout history. Existence, this sea, which pioneered the fusion and development of the Mediterranean civilization, has been the center of many. It is the home of the ancient kingdom. To keep this nest clean, the Cretan king menaced the pirate cleansing. He had begun continued all the way to Rome. The Roman Republic from its foundation, barbarian invasions, and until its destruction in 476 AD, it stood out with its seafaring throughout history, has never been a state. It has not been a state that lived before it and took a step into maritime, unlike the Phoenician, Greek, and Carthaginian states, Phoenicia, Greece, and Carthage. Rome was a more territorial state. Having imported seafaring and maritime culture from abroad, this state had an extraordinary political did not deal with seafaring, except for problems. For this reason, Rome was able to reach the entire Mediterranean while waging wars to complete the conquest of the bordering regions. And after completing them, has created a huge pirate problem. And many wars have been fought to deal with this problem. Has initiated it. Well, friends, as you can see, one of the biggest headaches of the Roman Republic was pirates. They posed serious threats not only to Rome's trade, but also to its people and security. But like any great power, Rome took action to solve this problem and made pirates a thing of the past. But this was not the end of piracy on the seas, but the beginning of a new era. Was Rome's victory greater, or the courage of the pirates? I leave it to you to decide. In our next video, we will go deeper into the history scene. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Goodbye.